Cavolo here. The topic of this video, America is rigged. It's been rigged for the last 20 years minimum. Actually started about 30, 40 years ago, but really accelerated this last 20 years. And so what we've seen is the decline of America and the rise of China at the same time. And you want to blame China, don't blame China. And I'm going to be looking over here because I'm going to be reading this article to you. It's a great article by a great journalist. I'm not going to tell you who it is until the end, but anyone could have written this article, including me, because it's just speaking the truth. And we need to talk about this truth. America's rigged. The political system is corrupt as can be. Wall Street's corrupt as can be. And we're going to be referencing, which might not surprise you, the recent events with the GameStop short squeeze and the stuff that's been happening surrounding that story, the story of Robinhood, WallStreetBets on Reddit, etc. Here we go. Last March, as the country began to panic about the arrival of the coronavirus from China, there was a billionaire called Bill Ackman. You remember that guy? Went on television and attempted to make America even more afraid than it already was. He said, hell is coming, during an appearance on CNBC. There's a tsunami coming, right? A tsunami's coming and you feel it in the air, right? The tide starts to roll out, okay? And on the beach, people are playing and having fun like there's nothing going on. And that's the feeling I've had for the last 2 months. We need to shut it down now. America will end as we know it, I'm sorry to say, so unless we take this option. And Ackman was especially frightened for the future of Hilton hotels. As we all know, because of the pandemic, leisure and restaurant and hotels and cruise lines were the first to get destroyed. Hilton Hotels, he proclaimed, is going to zero, along with every other hotel company in the world. And not long after that appearance, we learned that Ackman's firm has made more than $2 billion from trading in the stocks, including Hilton Hotels. Surprise. And that many people believed he had pushed down with such historically dire predictions. Obvious manipulation. Seems obvious that Ackman's rant on CNBC was part of a dishonest investment strategy, and we said so on the air. His lawyers immediately threatened to sue us. Yeah, that's what happens when you tell the truth. In a long phone conversation later, Ackman swore to us that his public attack on Hilton Hotels had nothing at all to do with his desire to buy hotel stocks at a lower price or with the billions in profit. Not even millions or hundreds of millions. Billions in pure profit. That his firm subsequently reported. We will let you assess Bill Ackman's sincerity. This kind of behavior is common on Wall Street. Hedge fund managers bet money that a specific stock will decline in value. That's called short selling. It has no obvious value to the American economy. Short selling exists for the purpose of enriching the people who do it. Hurts companies, hurts their investors, their employees. Ultimately, it hurts the country itself. Yet it continues. It's just when I look at the camera and move from the article, I'm sharing some personal thoughts. Look, Ayn Rand said it very well in Atlas Shrugged. If capitalism becomes mutant capitalism, and another word for this is predatory capitalism, and that's what we've got. Okay? There's nothing to do with making America a wonderful place or taking care of the society and the structure, your responsibility and your civic duty to the society within which you became rich, rather than you're just a predator sucking it dry, right? And, you know, this is pure democracy and pure capitalism, gone mutant, gone predatory. And the Chinese government won't allow that. Okay? Don't get me wrong, there's plenty of people making lots of money in China, but the Chinese government keeps its focus. Its top priority is the society. In fact, not you as an individual. I live here 21 years. You accept the idea that the stability of the whole society is more important than just you as an individual. Okay? So that's one of the reasons that it's a system, and then they'll never give in to this capitalist democratic way that is a miserable failure in today's world, and that's why they're hated and being vilified. So anyway, here we are talking about how predatory capitalism hurts the country itself. Yet it continues. Obviously, this hurts people. American people. This is how the middle class got wrecked. Let's continue. No one does anything about short selling. Unbelievable. I mean, the arguments about this began years ago, decades ago. Regulators ignore it. CNBC applauds the brilliance of the people who do it. This is another very important point. The media from whom I'm reading this, and CNBC, and other media, remember, they're all part of the problem, even though they're writing this, trying to tell you they're not part of the problem. They're all also making millions of dollars per year. They're all also the billionaires. They're the elites. They also don't care about you. Remember that. But they have to write this stuff to make you think that they do. But remember, they're not you. The guy writing this makes like $8 million or more per year. Okay? So please, when he acts and talks like this to be Mr. Nice Guy, please, give me a break. They're still maintaining their own world, their own system, their own elite world. Regulators ignore short selling. CNBC applauds the brilliance of the people who do it. So does MSNBC, CNN, Fox News, everybody. On and on and on. The last administration did nothing to stop this. That would be Obama. Oh, maybe he was, no, sorry, Obama, Trump. Well, who did? Clinton? And the current administration certainly won't. The Biden White House is more tightly controlled by business interests than any administration in history. That's not true, but it sounds good on paper. They're all tied in. They're all sold out to the billionaires and the elites. Virtually every person there is beholden to the finance establishment. That's what they're saying about Biden now. As if that wasn't the case with Trump, who started off by saying he was independent and didn't need Wall Street. And then as soon as he got in office, he completely obliterated that and kowtowed to Wall Street this entire time. No different. Save Wall Street, let Main Street go to hell. Give billions in bailouts, give households $600 or whatever the hell it is. It's just, it's ridiculous. So what's happening on Wall Street is so clearly awful and so obviously destructive. It's not just Wall Street. It's Wall Street. It's Washington. It's the corporate world. It's the military corporate complex. I love Jimmy Dore, by the way, because he's right in the middle analyzing how you're being screwed by the establishment, and that's what it is. And even in the end, Trump did the same thing, right? So the question is, who's going to fight back against it? Here's where it gets fun. As it turns out, a bunch of regular guys on Reddit will. It fell to them to push back against the short sellers because no one else even tried, so they did. A group of independent investors in a Reddit group called WallStreetBets learned that hedge funds plan to short the stock of a failing retail company called GameStop. So they began buying shares of GameStop, and GameStop surged in value ultimately by more than $1,000. It started at like $5 years ago, was at like $30, and then it shot up to like $500, something like that. It's now since come down by half. The hedge funds, for all their calculations, hadn't seen that coming, and they lost billions as a result. One hedge fund lost so much money it needed a bailout from two other hedge funds. Meanwhile, some of the investors on Reddit got rich. But getting rich was not the whole reason they did it. They also wanted to send a message. Don't misunderstand. Don't forget. All this that has been happening with hedge funds and others, Goldman Sachs, Lehman Brothers, who were the other ones, I can't remember the names. Okay. They've been doing this stuff for 30 years, ever since Clinton repealed the Glass-Steagall Act, allowing these banks to become investors. And then they leverage up their money 20, 30, 40 times doing these incredibly risky things. And they've just made themselves billions and allowed the society and the economic system to be blown up. $30 trillion. That's how much the U.S. government owes. $30 trillion. Let me just keep continuing. Let me just continue here. So they also wanted to send a message. You know, I'm a pastor. And Jesus tells a story about this rich fool who has an overabundant harvest that's more than he can store, said one of the Redditors, Justin Speak. That's what he told MSNBC. And rather than give the excess to those in need, he chooses to build a bigger and bigger barns to store it for himself. And rather than share the billions with the less fortunate, they built bigger and bigger barns for themselves, even bigger. That's what I've been saying all along. Read my article on LinkedIn about the real problem, the billionaires, the real problem. This is the real problem. When you've got billions and billions, you don't need more billions. You've got to distribute some of it to the society in which you're making your billions. So this is a failure. This is the ultimate failure of the United States and the West, the whole Western capitalist system. It's horrifying. We've been You've had the freedom of speech to scream and scream and scream about it for decades now, and it hasn't changed. Here we have this GameStop story today, with the stock market higher than it's ever been. So, said this Justin Speak, there was a part of me that, well, was thinking, well, oops, it will be fun to be a part of this moment, to see this moment where at some level, overnight, these investors are losing their investing lives. So he was being a little bit mean. You know, people get mean after they get screwed for year after year after year. Bill Ackman and the many people on Wall Street who behave like Bill Ackman understandably generate some resentment from the rest of the population, really. They pause and say, wait a sec, what exactly did you do to make $2 billion? Did you improve anything? Was it just another sleazy inside deal and the rest of us were excluded from participating? It's exactly what it was, and that's exactly what it's been. That's what Washington and the elites and the duopolist oligarchy is. No matter who's in the presidential office, no matter which party is got the majority in the executive branch, the House, the Senate, makes no difference. That was pretty much the message the Reddit guys were sending to Wall Street. Watching at home, a lot of Americans applauded that message, but others weren't happy. People who lose money rarely are happy. But here's what makes the hedge fund managers different from you. They have a lot more power than you. They control the game, so they immediately change the rules of the game. On Thursday, the investment app Robinhood, which is used by independent investors to buy and sell stock, that's the app that all of the Wall Street Bets Reddit group used to do this, to go long on GameStop. And what did Robinhood do? Banned its users from trading GameStop shares, as well as shares of several other companies. You just can only take a pause to ponder how screwed up that is. No one even knew that was legal. Maybe it isn't, but Robinhood did it anyway. And they did it under pressure from the hedge funds, who they really work for. So much for the free market you're always hearing about. There's nothing free about it. Turns out what Wall Street really hates is outsider trading. The idea that people from outside their world might be getting rich. That's the one thing they can't abide. The management of Robinhood, of course, didn't admit any of this. They're still posing as an outpost of inclusive, progressive values in a sea of rapacious capitalism. Well, that's a good word, too. The irony being, of course, that Robinhood is the most rapacious of all. They sell information they gather from their customers to the hedge funds who use it for their advantage. And most customers don't even know that. How's that for progressive? On the other hand, they do support Black Lives Matters. Other platforms took effectively the same position, but felt the need to pretend a little more than Robinhood did. They justified changing the results by attacking the very people they were hurting by changing the rules. The communication service Discord, for example, banned users from the Wall Street Bets group for using its platform. They didn't do that because those guys were beating the hedge fund guys at their own grubby game. No, they were banned according to Discord for engaging in hate speech. You can laugh if you want, but keep in mind, this is a time-tested tactic. Well, my main area, folks, is China. Look what they've been doing, just generating hate regarding China. Trying to tell you that China was rated the third safest country in the world by the 2020 Gallup Global Law and Order Report, behind only tiny Singapore and Turkmenistan. Third safest country in the world. And the rest of the other top 10 are all tiny little countries. China's 1.4 billion people. Again, I'm here 21 years. Nobody can say anything to me about China and think that they know more than me. Let me be crystal clear. If I say something to you about China, it's because I absolutely know it to be true. Otherwise, you think I'd be crazy enough to say it in public forever and then make myself look like an idiot if it's not true? Of course not. Okay? So I'm telling you what the fact is. The third safest country in the world, modern country, far ahead in many, many ways now to any other country on the planet. And they're trying to tell you that the Chinese government is an evil regime committing genocide. Genocide. Like Hitler. Genociding the Jews. The word genocide itself is just to utter the words is horrifying. So they're lying to you about China in the same way. This is the same, okay? This is they're doing hate. What I'm saying here is, I got triggered on the word hate speech. This is hate speech toward China. They're trying to tell you this crap about China. It's hate speech, and it's lies. It's just lies. So they're saying the same thing. It was hate speech. That's why Discord barred WallStreetBets Group for using its platform. You could laugh if you want. Well, I am laughing. This is a time-tested tactic. Yes, it is. Remember the Occupy Wall Street protests of more than a decade ago. The 2008 crash wrecked an awful lot of families in this country. Remember, Obama bailed out the billionaires and the bankers, but then let the bankers take the homes of you. Take your homes. The bankers foreclosed on your homes. They took your homes. They didn't bail you out, but they bailed the bankers out, gave them hundreds of billions of dollars, and then still the banks took your home. Can you believe it? That's how, and that was under Obama, who some people think was like a saint as a president. He screwed everybody as bad as anybody else in the duopolist oligarchy of the United States of America. We continue. The 2008 crash wrecked an awful lot of families in this country. Many have not recovered even now. People were angry about that, and many blamed Wall Street. But rather than address their grievances, some of them legitimate, Wall Street and its countless puppets in the media just changed the subject. And that is what they did. It was right about this point that we started hearing an awful lot about identity politics. In 2011, when the Occupy movement was at its peak, mentions of the word racism in the New York Times, the Washington Post, and Los Angeles Times skyrocketed. In the case of racism, in the case of the Washington Post, America's most committed defender of entrenched power, mentions of racism nearly tripled at the height of the Occupy Wall Street movement. Of course, it worked. They changed the subject, and they're doing that again right now. Over on CNBC, home of the professional short seller, they started their defense of big finance a little more tactfully. The problem with humiliating hedge funds, explained the anchor, Andrew Ross Sorkin, is that in the end, humiliating hedge funds only hurts the people who do it. So for their own good, they might want to stop doing it. I'll skip the Sorkin quote. You get the idea. Where was Andrew Ross Sorkin for the last dozen years as the central bank shoveled trillions of dollars to Wall Street, thereby enriching a few, devaluing the American dollar, guaranteeing hyperinflation eventually, and of course, well, you have hyperinflation in the healthcare industry. You know, I pay $50 for a CT scan. I pay $150 for an MRI. I pay $15 for an X-ray. Compare that to what you pay. I'm here in China. I go in and I pay. I want to see a doctor. I go in and pay. I pay $5 to see a doctor, even $2 or $3. Okay? So you already have hyperinflation in the United States. They've just segmented it into certain industries. Cute, huh? And of course, destroying the value of the average person's savings. The Reddit guys noticed, and that's why they're mad. Yellen, Janet Yellen, received $800,000. Someone else is trying to say she only received $300,000 in speech fees from the hedge fund involved in the stop controversy. And now she's the new Treasury Secretary. Janet Yellen might have something interesting to say about all of this. She ran the Federal Reserve for 2 years, beginning under Obama. As much as any single person on earth, Janet Yellen is responsible for creating the distorted financial system that made the Reddit revolt possible. Indeed, inevitable. You know, these people responsible for billions and they don't care at all about America. It's horrifying. As of last week, Janet Yellen is the Treasury Secretary. And here's what she said. Here's what Joe Biden's press secretary, Jen Psaki, said. I'm also happy to repeat that we have the first female Treasury Secretary. That's nice. And a team that's surrounding her and often questions about the market we'll send to them. But our team is, of course, our economic team, including Secretary Yellen and others, are monitoring the situation. It's a good reminder, though, that the stock market isn't the only measure of the health of our economy and doesn't reflect how working and middle-class families are doing. In other words, she simply didn't answer the question, and they aren't addressing it at all, and that's Janet Yellen. Let's translate. Janet Yellen has nothing to say about Reddit or GameStop, short selling, or even the dangerously corrupt condition of American finance. Indeed. More broadly, she hasn't thought about those things and probably doesn't even care. Janet Yellen herself has made millions from hedge funds, including from the funds that lost money to the Reddit guys. But we like to remind you that Janet Yellen is a woman, and so are many of the people around her. So that's nice that there's lots of women in the Biden administration, and isn't that great? Those brave leaders have broken glass ceilings. They are empowered, and that's enough. We can't give you an answer to this problem. We won't improve your life, but we do have diversity and women in the Biden administration, so you should be happy. That's their position. Has there ever been, in all of human history, a clearer distillation of the essence of neoliberalism than that? I've been saying this for 2 years. Neoliberalism is cancer. You guys' idea of freedom of speech and neoliberalism is a cancer on the world. You're out of your frickin' minds. Maybe at this point, people will start to catch on to the game. Really? People have been writing about this. There's 3 great movies about it. The Big Short, Too Big to Fail. What's the other one? You go to sites like what's the guy? I'm so embarrassed I can't remember. Okay, skip it. Many sites. Many people have been writing about all this nightmare and corruption for decades, and nothing has changed. So, here, maybe at this point people will start to catch on to the game. We've already been caught on to the game, and we've been complaining about it for 20 years. Suddenly people are catching on to a lot of things. Now, we may come to see the Reddit guys and their effective defense of GameStop as a kind of turning point in this country's history. Whatever our current system is, it is definitely not the capitalism we were promised. Not even close. Well, that's absolutely true. But again, my complaint on all of this is that we've been saying this. My father and I started having this conversation in the mid-90s. At the time I was in my let's say 25 years ago, I was, 35. So like 1995, I was an adult. My father was older. We would talk about this. He's like, he could see the writing on the wall, which way all this was going. It's a real problem, folks. Talking about it for 25 years, and it's still happening. And it's gotten worse than ever. The rich are richer than ever. The rich are richer than ever. If you have 10 billion and you make another 10 billion, while you look outside the window and everybody else is still in the same situation and struggling and can't even pay their bills, and you're like, oh well, I'm worth 10 billion, and I'm worth another 10 billion, and that's it. Are you kidding me? The West has ruined the world. China's not going to play with them, and that's why they're fighting, and that's why they are attacking China. You don't listen to anything they say about what's going on with China. You listen to me and other people who are around me. We know what's really going on with China. Okay? We know what's really going on. China is the largest, safe, stable, successful, and capable country on the planet. The Chinese government has a series of 5-year plans. It's just this year rolling out its 14th 5-year plan. And the top priority of that government is the society and the people, not the elites and the oligarchs and the rich people. That is an absolute fact. And they keep trying to tell you China's horrible, committing genocide and all this other crap. It's nonsense. Don't listen to it. Don't believe it. That's it. My name is Mario Cavolo. Subscribe to this channel. I'm doing a subscriber drive. See the link in the bottom. $2 for my special report, China Censorship, Internet, and Security. There are 75 of the world's top websites. If China wants blocking the internet, why would 75 of the world's top websites, news sites, not be blocked in China? Without a VPN, Fox News, CNN, AP News, MSNBC, LA Times, Chicago Tribune, none of these websites, and I got another 70 in my special report for only $2, 30 pages, at the link below. That's the truth about China. Those websites are not blocked in China. And I'm not talking about a VPN. I mean no VPN, just straight on the internet. So you see, they keep lying to you and lying to you and lying to you. The reason Google, YouTube, and Twitter are blocked in China is not because they're blocked in China. It's because they don't do business in China. Folks, there's a million other foreign companies in the world who do business in China. Why? Because they registered and they follow Chinese law. And there's millions of foreign companies that do business in America because they register in America and follow American law. Otherwise, they wouldn't be doing business in the United States. Like TikTok, which does business in the United States because it's fully in compliance with the law. You go to America and try to run a business without registering according to the law and following the laws of the United States. That's why Google, YouTube, Twitter are not doing business in China, because they choose not to. They could easily be the same as the other million companies who do business in China. They choose not to do business here, not because they're banned and blocked. See, because you keep getting lied to. I'm really happy to help bring the truth to the world about all these things. I wish all of you a fantastic weekend. Thanks, everybody. See you next time. Bye-bye. Hey, friends. Whoa, real quick. I just realized I forgot to finish the story. I had to finish telling you the one thing, which was where that article came from. That was Fox News. That was a piece by the very popular and well-known Tucker Carlson. I don't agree with him and his rabid anti-China lies, but credit is due where credit is due. That was a great article. That was the source. That's where it came from. See ya.